And in fact, it's the next slide. Great, aren't we lucky? Well done. GCSE results on university or job applications.
Right.
Oh, by the way, if you can see these pictures, all these pictures attached to the slides are different bits of my enormous college, Christchurch, all that. Yes, Wendy. Let's come back to Wendy. Wendy took her GCSE exams when she was 16. Then she studied for 2 more years and took her A-level exams. And universities offered her a place on condition she got high grades in her A-level exams. So why are we even asking the question? Why would a university want to know the results of exams she took 2 years earlier? Well, they do matter. There's a reason for that. Many students earn very high grades in their A-level exams. I think about 2/3 of UK students now earn A star or A grades, or possibly A star, A plus B. That's a lot of students. Supposing a university has to choose between 2 students who have these very high grades, and they're worried, the university is worried it doesn't quite have enough places for the demand. How do they choose? One way is to look at GCSE grades. Students with higher grades in the relevant subjects will tend to win out. But there is another question about this, which is, I've gone out of order. Yes, I think, was this your question? When is the best time to start preparing and learning?
Yes.
And a lot of parents think, well, the sooner, including myself, before I learnt better with my own children, when is best to start preparing, therefore, for your GCSE exams? It is possible, as we said, to start early. We said earlier with Andy that some schools begin teaching GCSE in year 9. That's a year earlier than normal. Why do they do that? In my view, it's because they worry about the rankings. Is my school going to be up there in the top 100? Well, maybe if we get our GCSE students learning a bit earlier, they start the course a year earlier, maybe we will make it into the top 20 or 100 or whatever. So pushing the students like that will help grades. Will it help students? Now, my feeling is that if the school teaching is good, or of course if you have a good tutor supporting you, it's not just unnecessary, it could be unhelpful, positively unhelpful, to get your child started earlier. GCSE exams are designed for children of a certain age and a certain maturity. Wendy, at 14 years old, when she starts year 10, she's an awful lot more mature than she was when she was 13, a year earlier. I think you'd agree. I have a personal example for you. My son, who is a very clever boy, went to a private elementary school in London, where they push hard and fast. We went to Indonesia. He arrives at the American school in Jakarta, Indonesia. Academically, he's 2 years ahead of the other kids in his class. The school says, that's okay, it will level up. We say, no. His mother and I insisted, no, he must be in the class ahead of his year. We want him advancing, we want him going faster than everybody. It's a common mistake. As I say, I made it myself. You out there could be making the same mistake or thinking about it. Parents think that getting ahead, a child getting ahead of their peers, is a really good thing to do. We turned out to be very wrong. The school was absolutely right. At the age of 12, my son had to repeat a school year over again. He did the same year twice. Why was that? He was clever enough to do the work, but at a year younger, he just was not mature enough to fit in with the other kids in the class. And his learning was suffering. Very good lesson, that. Does that answer your question about the best time to start?
It does.
Okay.
It's not the earlier the better.
It is absolutely not the earlier the better, no. Let's have a look. This is a very good question. How will the selection of subjects at GCSE impact your university application? As we said, a university may look at your grades at GCSE to separate out interest, No, to separate out achievement at that age of 16 years old. Now, Wendy was how old when she chose her GCSE subjects? She was 13 or 14 years old and she chose 9 different subjects. At 13 or 14 years old, how many students know what they want to study at university? Very, very few. Very, very few. My tutor, Theodore Zelzing at Oxford, went to the University of Cairo at the age of 12, but he's so fantastically intelligent that really the exception that proves the rule. Yeah. Their interest in a subject will be clear in their university applications. You don't need to show that they were interested in that subject when they were 13 years old. So, as I said, GCSEs are considered, but it's for what they tell a university about ability, not about interest. Next question. No, am I going the wrong way again? Oh, this is a good one. Faye, you asked this earlier, didn't you?
Yeah.
Can an A-level student be homeschooled? Well, we talked about teaching assistants, didn't we? A homeschooling parent. Oh, by the way, do you recognise the staircase over there? It's the staircase that leads to the dining hall in Hogwarts, Harry Potter movies.
Oh, Christchurch.
Christchurch,
Harry
that's
Potter
right.
movie scene.
Yes. And this is our dining room. Yeah, it's kind of big. And this is the tower over the staircase. So it's the most beautiful, that's called fan vaulting. I love it. I'm very fond of early English perpendicular architecture. Fan vaulting is spectacular. So, can A-level students be homeschooled? The answer is yes, but there's a very big if here. Yes, if you've trained as a teacher. Yes, if you have trained as a teacher in that subject. Yes, if you can offer your child 6 hours teaching a week in each subject and allow the time to assess your child's homework. If you understand what an examiner wants to see in your child's exam answers. Easy, really.
How many families would have that?
How many families would have that? That's right. Not so many, perhaps. What's the time? Have I got time for this story about Christchurch? Or?
Yes.
Mind if I go on? Okay. Yeah. The real answer, of course, is A-level students homeschooled. Very, very difficult, and you would need to be a teacher. You almost certainly need the help of a professional tutor. Let's go on to the next slide.
So it's a different concept of having homeschooling when they were in primary school, isn't it?
Completely different from primary school.
Primary school students homeschooling mostly managed by their own parents,
Yep.
as you say, the home teaching angel.
Yeah,
and then
that's right.
When it comes to GCSE or A level, we can't. It's not the same concept at all.
Not at all. No. Now in the UK, students go from primary to secondary school at the age of about 9 and 4, 13, don't they? 12 or 13 years old. Parents can still just about continue teaching that. Once you get to GCSE, you need to be a teacher, frankly.
Right. You need professional teaching, educational assistant.
Yeah. You can be a teaching assistant if you follow along the teaching that's happening in school, however that's broadcast. A-level, no.
Yeah, the answer is very clear. Thank you.
I think so, yeah.
Let's have this interesting story about the dining hall.
Yeah. This is a bit more to me. The question is, can we take an exam, A-level, sorry, that should be capital A, an A-level exam earlier than 18 years old? Is there any advantage? And frankly, the same comments apply as we said for GCSE. No, don't do it. This is Harry Potter's dining hall. Do you remember that? In Harry Potter's at Hogwarts, the roof lifts off, which is very nice. But it brings back mixed memories for me. You see, students, undergraduates in hall, at supper we had to wear ties and we had to wear our black academic gowns. Scholars, like me, wore long gowns. They came down to our knees. Commoners, as they're called, wore short gowns. This means that the college servants could tell at once who the scholars were. And every evening at supper, one of the scholars is tapped on the shoulder by the chief scout, as he's called, and he's quietly asked to read the Latin grace out loud from a lectern right at the far end of the hall, being watched by all the senior staff at the top table, to several hundred students in the hall. Now, I was rather shy at that age. I was young, remember, and I was terrified by the thought of having to do that. I actually avoided supper in hall much of the time. Back to our question.
Wonderful.
Is there any advantage in taking A-levels younger than 18? Nope. For the same reason why it's best not to enter a student for GCSEs. The older a student is taking A-levels, the better. Why? Because the extra year or so brings more maturity and a better appreciation of why the A-levels matter. Again, very short personal experience. Being a clever little chap at school, always the youngest in my class, I took the Oxford exam entrance a year earlier than I needed to, and play me down, I won an open scholarship, the top kind of scholarship in history to the top history college. I went up straight away, no gap year. From the offer in May, it was 3-4 months later that I went up to Oxford. Mm-hmm. I was way too young to understand what Oxford was, what universities were for, and I'm afraid I did very little work. I could have used those 3 years so much more effectively than I did, but I started too young. Hope that answers your question.
Yeah.
I had somehow just discovered a similar story, life story here.
Yeah.
I wasn't even 17 when I was in a university.
Oh my word.
Started off.
Clever girl, eh?
Well, yeah, similarly, first 2 years was playing around and not mature enough to really, do some research or study. But luckily, in China, we have 4 years in the university, so I had 2 years to catch up.
So yeah.
But on the other hand, I went to 18 to university. I went to Manchester University.
Yeah.
And I excelled. I think I got better and better every year. By the time I did my final year, I was getting firsts in some of my exams, where I actually kind of accelerated and caught up.
Yeah.
That allowed me to go on to do a PhD in the subject, and then even go on to work at another university, Durham University, and have my own tutor group, and so on and so forth.
Yes,
That's how I got introduced into education initially, before I went into industry and all those other things.
Yeah.
So I think mine is a good story.
It is a good story. Yeah. I don't think it's
to follow the rule.
The natural way of.
But you're a scientist, aren't you?
Indeed. Yes.
Scientists and mathematicians are asked not to take gap years after they leave school, aren't they? To go straight up, especially math students, because universities, the gap years is what I should have done. Taken a year off and learnt about the world after school before university. Maybe you should have done the same thing.
Indeed, with science there's very much that continuum.
Yes.
And building and building and building. And I very much benefited from such. Yes.
Okay, and universities actually say if you're maths or science, you will not take a gap year. You cannot have the time off. Especially in maths, we want your brains still really working very hard and young.
Yeah, that's it's a piece of very, very important and interesting suggestion, isn't it? Not to take gap year if you're in a scientific area.
I think it's a rule.
Yeah, it's a rule, okay.
I feel sorry for scientists. Okay. Would you like to know a little bit about examinations? Shall we talk a bit about exams?
Let's move on to
Am I going to go the right way this way? Is it up or down? With my thing. It's...
there it is.
It's down, we've gone the right way. The key advice for high scores and exams. By the way, this is the library at Christchurch. Rather nice.
Very beautiful when it was covered by snow.
Yeah. I did go into it once.
Well, this question is got billions of gold in it.
That's right.
The key advice for high score in exam.
Rather than just preach at you, I thought I would show you what an A-level exam paper looks like. Would you like that first of all, can you see it? I'm not sure how clear this is going to be.
Yeah, we will be sharing the slide deck afterwards.
Okay.
And so if we can highlight on the advisors, and then
Sure.
our audience can see the details.
Sure,
later.
okay. Well, I could do a lot of talking about this, but let me just show you what a paper looks like. This is one question, one section, I beg your pardon, of one A-level paper. That's right. Here we are. Section B, question 2. It's about the market for coffee. There's a bit of data there. 1, 2, 3 charts. We need to understand exactly what those charts tell us.
So it's the chart reading analysis,
Uh-huh.
data analysis.
Yeah, that's right. So I would ask a student, well, tell me what's happening in that. What happens to the coffee price for mild Arabica in Brazil between January 1994 and January 2014? And we better have a very close look at that. That's given in US cents per pound. And so on. Does it finish there? Are we going to get questions on it yet? Not quite. No. Figure 4. We've got another chart. Another picture. This is the real chart. Yeah. Tax 37%. Coffee 8 pence. This is the cost of what goes into a cup of coffee. That's pretty scary, isn't it? The coffee farmer gets 8% of the cost of the coffee cup that we drink our coffee, the coffee that we drink from in our coffee place. Is that it? No. Here's an extract. This is from Metro by Ross McGuinness in 2013. There's a load of information in there. You can't see it at the moment. You will see it when you get these slides. Finished? Nope, sorry. Here's a long piece from news articles, the Wall Street Journal. Actually, the source is the Wall Street Journal. A lot more information. This is about drought in Brazil. The year when there wasn't enough water, enough rainwater for the coffee to grow properly. Finished yet? Ready for questions?
No.
No. No, we've got an even bigger one. We've got higher coffee prices and the Brazilian economy. Rapid increase in coffee bean prices won't help to revive the economy in Brazil, etc. And what do we know about that? It tells us an awful lot about the part that coffee plays in the Brazilian economy. And at long last, thank goodness, we've got some questions. We have in fact got to A, B and C, and then we can choose between question D and E. They add up to 50 marks, and it's part 2 of an A-level paper with 100 marks. Happy with that? So how are we going to set about that? That's difficult to ask an intelligent, well-trained adult. We're asking a 17 or 18-year-old. So how do we do it? I'll go through these fairly quickly. This is based on my experience not only as a teacher but also as an examiner. I know what I want to see in a good student's marks, okay? Do stop me at any time.